Hello, my middle school students. This is the second week of video lessons. Last week we talked about different kinds of maps and different areas of Arizona. And for this video, we're going to be talking about prehistoric people and the first people to be in Arizona. Okay, so the earliest people to come to the land that is now Arizona arrived thousands of years ago. Long before that time, a piece of land connected the continents of Asia and North America. Do you remember from science what that's called? People may have traveled on this land into North America. For thousands of years, children of these people and their children's children spread over the continent. They may have reached present-day Arizona as early as 12,000 years ago. Okay, so remember we talked a lot about the continents and how many countries are in each continent. We talked about South America. We talked about North America before we left for break. Can you remember the three countries that are part of North America? Our country is one of them, but there's one above us and there's one below us. See if you can remember what they are and tell me in our next Zoom meeting. All right, when the first people arrived, the land was very different from the Arizona we know. Rainfall was greater, moist prairies and forests covered much of the land. The plant life led many large animals to the area. Some of these animals weighed thousands of pounds. Herds of giant deer, camels, buffaloes, and huge mammoths. Large elephant-like animals grazed on the prairies. Mastodons, which also looked like elephants, roamed the woodlands. They used their trunks to reach for leaves and tear off tree bark. Giant armadillos, some the size of a small car, searched for roots and insects to eat. The first people to come to Arizona were most likely hunters looking for food, since meat and plants were sometimes scarce, and scarce means hard to find. They traveled in bands or small groups of families that lived and worked together. Because they were always on the move, these people used shelters made of animal skins. The shelters could be set up and taken down quickly. At night, the people camped near rivers or streams. During the day, they followed the great herds and hunted. Imagine how hard it was for these people to kill a giant mammoth. Remember, they were the size of a small car, and we didn't have any of the weapons we normally have today for hunting. The animals stood as tall as a house and had tusks as long as a pickup truck. The hunters had nothing but spears with stone tips. To do their job, they had to work as a team. From just one mammoth, a whole group of people got enough meat to last for months. The hide was used to make clothing and shelters. The bones became tools and weapons. So people back then used every part of the animal. You never wasted a kill. All right, so let's talk about some of the Arizona natives, the people that came to Arizona. During prehistoric times, Arizona natives' culture, and culture is a way of speaking, dressing, and behaving, changed. Prehistoric means before recorded history. So all of this we're talking about this week happened before modern times or before recorded history. So a lot of it is just making educated guesses about how the native people arrived here. They didn't have tools to write and they didn't know how to read. There was no written language at the time. So some of the people that came were basket makers. From 6000 to 4000 BC, native people of Arizona gathered berries and shellfish for food. They made baskets in which to carry the things they gathered. Archaeologists believe the people of this time also wove nets to catch fish and birds and made wooden duck decoys to help them catch ducks. The bow and arrow. American Indians disguised themselves in deer skins in order to get close to living deer. So like if you have hunters in your family, they wear camo to blend in with their surroundings. The native people did that as well, but they used deer hide to hide and camouflage themselves to look like deer so that the deer would not be scared of them and run away. The bow and arrow helped them kill their prey from a greater distance than they could with the atlatl. I'm having a hard time pronouncing this, but I think it's called atlatl. The atlatl is a tool for throwing spears. Thanks to the atlatl, ancient hunters were able to kill more deer because it made their arrows stronger. It also made it easier for the hunters to hit their target. Scientists believe that the atlatl was used by ancient hunters on every continent across the world except for Antarctica. All right. Ancient Arizonans built villages. Between 6000 and 4000 BC, native groups in Arizona grew larger and stayed in one place for a longer period of time. So before this, people were nomads. Those are people who traveled around the world, not settling down in one place. But once you have a bunch of people, they can form a community, and you need that community to help hunt, to gather food, to form friendships, and that's how culture happens as well. So now that people aren't having to roam around and be in constant search of food, they can settle down. And once we have settled communities, we're going to get a larger culture and arts and entertainment. They built more permanent homes, these people who are living in Arizona, instead of shelters that they could move easily. They even traded with other villages. They began living in villages because they learned how to grow crops. They didn't have to travel anymore. They still hunted some animals and gathered other things they needed, but they didn't have to follow animals from one place to the next. Over time, they became a civilization that had art, science, and technology, and became even more important in their lives. They also developed a system of writing, so that's a form of communication that they were able to do. The main crops grown by these ancient people are called the Three Sisters. They are corn, beans, and squash. The Three Sisters were their most important crops for hundreds of years. When the Europeans first arrived, the people in Arizona still grew corn, beans, and squash. The Three Sisters were inside the wigwam. Who were these sisters? So this is the story of how the Three Sisters became to be. It's a legend that's been carried down for thousands and hundreds of thousands of years. Actually, this is the natives' names, the Three Sisters, for those vegetables: corn, bean, and squash. The Three Sisters were inside all winter. They wanted to return to the earth. They could not yet. The ground was not ready for them. The earth was cold and wet. If the Three Sisters returned to the earth, they would rot and die. When would the earth be ready? The oak leaves had the answer. When they were the size of a red squirrel's foot, the ground would be safe for the Three Sisters, or to plant the three types of vegetables. The ground got warmer and drier as the days got longer. The oak leaves continued to grow in late May. The leaves were the size of a red squirrel's foot, so it was time for the Three Sisters to leave the wigwam. The seeds had been soaked in medicine. The crows hated the medicine, so they would not eat fruit grown from seeds soaked in it. The women worked in fields, digging up hills of earth with their sticks and placing each of the sisters, corn, bean, and squash seeds, into the warm ground. By summer, the land was crowded with young crops. First the beans, then the squash, and finally the corn was harvested. These seeds were then dried and saved. They were taken to the wigwam. Once again, the Three Sisters rested together through another long winter. All right, so let's move on to the bison and buffalo hunt. Paleo Indians may have driven bison off cliffs around 8000 BC. The bones of more than 100 animals have been found at various cliff sites in Arizona. So sometimes if you couldn't kill a bison yourself, the easiest way would be to try to push it till it would fall over a cliff. And obviously, once it fell over the cliff, it would die on impact, and you could go down below and find it. And that would be enough meat to last you and your community for a whole month. So there's different ways to kill animals. The people, the Arizona natives at this time, were very smart and stealthy. They used the land to get what they needed. All right. So one thing I did want to talk about was a certain county in Arizona. Have you heard of Mojave County? It's on the western border of Arizona. It's closer to Las Vegas than it is to Phoenix. And it's the largest city. The largest city in this county is Kingman. Kingman is also the county seat, so the central seat of our county. If your county is far away from the opportunities that come with big cities, what would you do? The creative people of Mojave County opened their beautiful country to tourism. They even bought the famous London Bridge and moved it all the way from England to Arizona. Since this bridge was moved to Mojave County in 1973, so fairly recently, It has helped make Lake Havasu one of the most popular recreation spots in the West. I'm sure most of you and some of your families have been to Lake Havasu. I have. Mojave County was created in 1864, and it is one of the first 4 counties formed in Arizona. Mojave County has 8,486,400 acres, making it the second biggest county in Arizona and the third biggest county in the whole United States. This county was named after the Mojave Indians who lived along the Colorado River. Today, much of the Mojave County is the Hualapai Indian Reservation. The main industries in this county are tourism, mining, and ranching. So remember, tourism is it's a place, a destination place for family and other people to come because it has lots of sights to see, interesting crafts to do. Maybe there's a lot of central hubs and restaurants and places to visit. So why would tourism be important to an economy, especially like Mojave County that has a large tourism industry? What places would you want to visit there? What makes Mojave County so special? All right, last two things I want to talk about are where did corn come from and the prickly pear. So, well, corn we know is one of the 3 sisters, but where did it come from? Well, by 1500 BC, knowledge of how to raise or cultivate corn developed among the natives of Mexico because of wild grass called teosinte. As this wild grass was cultivated and cross-pollinated with other plants, it developed into the sweet corn that was later called maize, and maize is just Spanish for corn. Squash and beans, the other 2 sisters, also found a place in ancient Arizona, as these foods were brought here from migrating tribes. So as people wandered across North America, they brought with them different foods and different seeds. All right. Last but not least, the prickly pear. The prickly pear cactus has prickly fruit shaped a little like a pear or a fig. See if you can look it up online on your computer to see what a prickly pear looks like. It is sometimes called an Indian fig. There are several different species of prickly pears. Many of them grow in the dry Arizona environment. They can stand long periods without much water, but they do better with some rainfall. So obviously we have a lot of prickly pears in Arizona because of the climate. It's dry and we get a little bit of rainfall, but just enough for it to grow. The stem of the prickly pear is made of a bunch of flat, leaf-like segments called joints. The flowers and fruit grow on the edges of the joints. The fruits are common in markets throughout the Southwest and Latin America, and they make yummy jam. I've had prickly pear fruit jam and put it on toast. It's really good. It's nice and sweet. A man named Luther Burbank figured out how to grow prickly pears without the prickles. They are raised as food for people and animals. The reason for their widespread popularity is that they are so nutritious and delicious. I agree. All right, so hopefully that's a lot of information for you about some of the prehistoric native people of Arizona, what they brought with them, and how they traveled here. Okay, so I have 3 questions for you. So I'd like you to take out your notebook or a piece of paper to write them down on. Okay, I'm going to put them up on the camera so you can see. So I would pause your video right here so you can write them down. Okay, all right. Well, you can show me your answers Wednesday morning at 9:30. Remember that 9:30 is just if you have questions for me or if you want to show me your work, okay? Otherwise, you're going to come on at 12:30 so you can be social with your friends. All right, guys, that's it for today. I will see you tomorrow on Zoom. Bye.